Hello, my name is Marcus Davies. I'm a professional mixer, producer, songwriter, artist, engineer, all that stuff. Today we're going to look under the hood of Elden Rodell's newest song, All Out of Time. He's a good friend of mine. I did some production on it, and then I mixed it as well, mixed and mastered. We're going to do a little bit more than just break down the mix of it today. I'm going to show you what it looked like when he brought it to me, bare bones, as like a demo. I'll show you what I did to it in terms of the production. And then once I got the green light and he said, okay, mix it, I'll show you how I did that. This is going to be very interesting, sort of from a mixer perspective, but probably more so a producer perspective. There were some interesting choices that we had to do. Some questions that needed answers, and I definitely had to do a little bit of problem solving. So let's dive right in. He records his own vocals at his house. I think he just uses a MXL V67 or whatever the green with the gold capsule grill is. And then he sends me all the vocals and whatever instrumentation he has figured out. So this is actually how it came to me. This is not raw. So when he sent it to me, it was an organ, a kick drum, and then all of his vocal layers. So what you're about to hear is the edited vocals. So I took them, put them into a different session, and a little bit of time alignment, a little bit of pitch correction. He's a very good singer, so he really did not need much. And a lot of it I left untouched because that's a production choice that just didn't need to be touched. I don't need to feel like I'm providing value by doing stuff. Often my value is knowing when not to do stuff. My job is to stay out of the way and enhance the song. And if tightening all of his vocals, making him sound super robotic, that's going to take a lot of the emotion out. In this case, some songs it might call for that, but this one, it was better not to do anything. So enough chatter. Here is All Out of Time as he sent it to me.
We were holding on until the end, to the end. Holding on until the end, but we're all out of time.
Right. Very simple. The organ stays on G that whole time. It never changed, and the sound never changed. It literally just stayed there. That was the entire length of this song. That's the production, that same kick pattern and that same organ. So when he handed it off to me, he told me that he's envisioning like a Sunset Drive down, Los Angeles, somewhere sunny like that. But like Sunset Drive, just coasting along. And as you're coasting along this road, you're seeing little memories of a past love, some sort of past relationship. So I thought that part was interesting. So actually I have a TV right up here in front of me, so I pulled up YouTube, and there's tons of like just driving videos with the camera on the car, and they're just going down the coast. So I put that on as inspiration, just so I can get into that mindset that he's envisioning for this. I'm going to show you how it was when he gave it to me, and then I'm going to flip to this MD Prod track right here, which is going to be just my production of what I did to it, and where he said, yes, that's good, let's move ahead to the mix. So here's where we started.
Holding on until the end, to the end. Holding on until the end, but we're all out of time. Oh, I wish I'd waited.
Big difference, right? Really, the biggest thing is probably when it moves to that second chord. Instead of just sitting on G on that organ, we moved it along and added some new percussion elements. There's a lot of different layers, textural spaces happening, lots of little movement things, which we'll dive into more later. So to take it one step further, let me show you the final mix and how that sounds.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end. We're all out of time.
All right, so let's dive in and see. Now that you guys know where it started, let's talk about kind of how we got there. So I will start with some of the production elements. Let's ignore vocals because those didn't change. I didn't tweak them, right? So I'm gonna mute the vocal bus. We're gonna go after all those vocals. Let's start with this kick. Let's see. This is his kick drum that he gave me, which you can hear, it doesn't move. Right, it's fine. It's just performed throughout the whole time, so I just kind of left it. I played around with muting it, swapping it for a whole new kick drum, which you can see here. And ultimately what I did, I just felt like this was only needed in the choruses, this extra kick drum that I added. So let me show you that. It just kind of helps beef up that pattern. I forget where I got that kick drum sample. It was Contact. I'm pretty sure it was Contact, Native Instruments, something in there. Rolling off some of that presence to kind of match that other kick drum. I don't want it to necessarily feel like a whole different kick drum. It just felt too different to me. So it's an extra thing, and it just, I mean, you can hear with and without that kick drum what it does to the snare. And you can't hear the snare right now, but you can hear exactly where it's going to be, because just that on its own feels a little ambiguous. It's kind of floaty. There's no real grounding. You can see it there, right? You just see it. So that chorus gets that lift. It's a little more of a groove, and we're not just kind of floating as much. It's now we are rooted. So there was no snare. I made my own snare. Let's see what's happening on its own. All right, there you go. There's my snare. Okay, first two are just kind of beefing it up, but rolling off the top end to kind of match that kick drum. That kick drum's very lo-fi, very rolled off. Snare gets the same thing, but adding harmonics here to help it kind of cut through the mix a little bit because it's quite dense. This, I don't know why I did this. I think I don't know. You know, as a mixer, I log in my brain like certain cool things from other songs. So I can name 2 songs right now that have like a slappy thing on a snare. Lord Huron. Oh shoot, there was an emerald in the sky. Whatever that song is. Shoot, I'll try to link it below. Shoot, I really forget what that was. The other one is Son or Son, S-O-H-N. I never know how to pronounce it. early, again, I can't name the song, early track off of his latest record. There's some like slappy stuff, but anyways, so that's all that was. It was just a cool little spatial thing. And this here, this is my front to back panner. I'm not just panning left to right. I'm thinking about depth front to back. So without this, with everything in there and the vocals and like the little spatial things, it just felt too on top of the mix. And I already have it quite low in terms of volume, but this, I'll turn this on and off and you'll hear it kind of set back into the mix when it's engaged. This is a great trick to just kind of set things back, get things out of the way. I do this a lot. Anything could get this. Sometimes snares are just too in your nose, in your skull. And you just need it to set back a little bit. And if I can't do it with like an EQ or maybe something else, I'll just do this. It's quick, it's easy. On the snare bus, a little bit of harmonics and a little bit of EQ, again taking off top end. And we forgot to look at this kick drum, taking out some sustain, shortening it because it's just so long and boomy, and that long low end information just clouds up the mix and it just eats up headroom. Don't need it. Again, just barely tightening things up down there and just adding a little bit of transient back in. The only other percussive element is a shaker. Standard. And there it is again, manipulating this reverb using early reflections to kind of push it back into the mix. Something that's more felt and less heard, but that gives us our subdivision. So all together, so right there's a good foundation. That's more than just that kick drum that he gave me. I went a long time in the production process where I was trying out sounds and playing with different things, and I couldn't fight not having more drums in there. I tried to keep it really simple, really sparse, but the chorus just fell short for me without just a little bit of a groove in there, just a little bit of backbeat, a little bit of subdivision stuff. So it just made it better. I did not need any of these parallel drum stuff. This is supposed to be a very simple mix. I don't even think this is moving. Ooh. Barely. But I've talked about this before, this little resonant boost you get at each of these different transformers. Steel, 50 hertz. That was good enough for me because those kick drums live down there. So, and this is just a little bit of harmonics. 66, 53, 53. Mix is only 17%, 20% here. Probably not even that noticeable. This is all going to my drum sum, which I'm not automating anything. This is just kind of tightening up the low end. We don't need to be swimming at 40 hertz or nothing, so let's just kind of bring it in a little bit, mostly for headroom. That's more of a mastering move anyways. Okay, from the drums, I picked up that bass guitar. I don't know if you can see that. I play bass. This just needed a little chugging. I'm not using that, so I'm going to turn that off. So here's whatever the bass was. That's it. That's as exciting as that gets. Palm muted. I played with a pick. It's just a little extra oomph in the low end. This is really more of a percussive thing. I did not want this to be like a big 808 bass, nothing like that. So I'm palm muting. It's mostly about that pick attack, just some transients, a little bit of energy. So bass low, bass high. I do this all the time. This is just duplicated. This is the exact same take, but I just separate my low and high so I can control, compress, treat them differently. Bass low, we'll look at that. 100 hertz rolling off, slamming it with the MV2. Can't beat this thing on bass. It's so good at just compressing everything, bring up the low end, tame the peaks, and just keep it in one spot. Bass high. Okay, there we go. It's all about the transients, all about the pick. I don't care much about note in this instance. I'm kind of getting the note from the bass low. Bass high is just the transients, which is making it a rhythmic element as opposed to harmonic. Yeah, how cool is that? I've been loving this guy lately. That 700 hertz, boosting that mid range. I just did another song. I think I did this exact same EQ curve for this bass high, pushing out that 700. It's, that's why people love that frequency on like the Neve, the 1073. You see that on bass all the time. Cranking 700, can't get enough of it. A little bit of distortion. So now it's more, there's the rhythm. I'm not looking for boom out of the bass. That is not the application of the bass guitar in this song. This is just almost like another subdivision thing that provides a little bit of harmonic content. Like it just follows the roots, right? So it goes on that G, then I think it goes to a B, adding that tension, then resolve to C, and then we're back to G. So let's see what else is happening here. Compression, holding it steady. I don't want it to get out of compression, just holding it steady. I don't want it to get out of control at all. Not actually using this harmonics. That is off. This de-esser, that's going to be sidechained to my kick drum, I bet. Yeah, there's that. So we'll listen to it together. So that kick drum ducking everything below 60 cycles on the bass every time that kick drum hits, because that kick drum is living under 60 hertz because it's the top end is so rolled off. So I do not want the bass to conflict and add all that extra energy in the low end. I just need to keep it out of the way so that low end energy stays consistent. Sucking out some nasty mud at 260 and just a little bit more mid-range. From there, MV2 again. Cool, so this is barely doing anything. There's just a little bit of resonance down here, and this is where the bottom end of the vocals are living, as well as all those pads and things. So this is really just kind of getting it out of the way. It's just a little bit of oomph in the low end, and it's mostly that pick, which is up in the mid-range. So this is just kind of scooping that stuff out of the middle without being so drastic about it. So this is probably what makes it still sound like a bass. Meaning if I just scooped all of this out, it would be a little too weird sounding. So that's why we're doing these dynamic frequency dips. Right, sounds fine on its own, but I'm sure I added this once I had all the vocals in and everything's getting going, and I just had a little too much in that mid-range, which is surprising because on bass low we're rolling off at 100 and bass high we're rolling off at 250. So really all of this here should be empty, but you can see we still have all that information right there that I just had to clean up. Cool. Moving on. This is really all the fun stuff with my production. All the textural layers and fun little instrumentation parts to take place of that stagnant organ that was given to me. Let's start with my main thing. I have 2 pads here that follow that chord progression of staying on G, eventually going to C for a hot second, twice in each chorus, and then going back down to G. So let me play. These are my 2 main guys. So let's dive into what these are. I believe this was done using Labs, which is, what is it, Spitfire or something? I do not remember which patch this was. Oh, you're so close. You can do it. That's a good spot. That's a good spot. That's where I would be if I was a cat. Looking good, dude. All right. This is all I wanted to show. It was something here, you know, some sort of just pad. And I'm using my machine. I don't know if you can see this. Native Instruments, drum pad, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I'm getting my MIDI in there. This thing is awesome. Tons of free packs. That's all I have is the free stuff. Call me cheap, call me whatever, but this stuff is so good and there's so much awesome things here. Really, really got to check it out. This thing is the best when it comes to finding cool sounds. Anyways, I called it Whirly. It's not a Wurlitzer. It just has a whirly motion to it. Let me take all this crap off of there. Here's what it sounds like on its own. Very normal. I'm at this point I'm looking for better sound than just that organ sitting on its own. So I found that patch and I decided to go with it. So that's something like 3 notes. That's just basically a G major. That eventually got boring to me on its own. So what I did was I made this minor pad. Very subtle. Essentially these 2 work together, and I'll show you. You can see I just wrote in with the mouse using the pencil tool just different volumes. So this minor pad outlines an E minor, the relative minor of G major. So this to me just adds a little bit of ambiguity and movement to work with that G major pad. So as the G major dips down, like right here, as that G major dips down, the E minor comes up in volume. So then as we're floating, we kind of feel, is this a major song? Is it a minor song? It's all in the same key, but that ambiguity is what makes it more interesting to me. So you can see this kind of goes all the way throughout the song. We're just kind of whirling and just kind of floating in a space. And I'm using those other things like the bass guitar and one or two other instrumentation things in here to kind of define the key. Apart from his vocals, of course. So let's look a little more at what this whirly is. What am I doing to it? Okay, pretty simple. Mondo mod, love this thing. It's spatial, it's psychoacoustic, it's just giving it movement. So you can't place it. It's not like it's coming out of that speaker. It's just floating all around you. This thing's fun, just a little bit of harmonics so to help it cut through. Soothe, you can see there's a couple really annoying frequencies right here, and this is really where the vocals and all the vocal effects are living. So this is just a little bit of surgery to clean it up. Same thing here, right? Vocals are really in this low mids, so I'm boosting a little bit of the bottom, taking out some of that mid-range and just letting it just sit in its own place. What are we doing to this minor pad? Harmonics with a tape machine. More harmonics with another tape machine. Same thing, just gets a little too resonant at that frequency. And then just making sure it has a home right there. And yeah, I take out the minor pad in the second verse just to add some sort of variety to it. Just, again, going against what I was given of just that organ staying consistent the whole way through. You got to just make it a little more interesting than that to keep listeners engaged. And these are going to my key sum, which literally has nothing on it. This is just rolling off at 60 hertz, and that is not being automated, so there's nothing there. In addition to the whirly and the minor pad, the other big sound, I would say, this guy up here, which I'm calling Sirens. Again, it's just a weird patch from Labs. This one is interesting though. This is a really cool texture, and what this gave to me in the song, again, if you go back to my instructions from the artist who I'm trying to serve, is make it sound like I'm driving down the LA coast on Sunset and there's memories and things. So that to me is what this sound is like. It's almost quite literally the sound of the tires on the pavement going by, right? It's like watching a car from a distance on the hillside drive through, and like you're in a canyon, so the sound just kind of travels. That's what this was for me. So this is a cool texture. It's only happening in the chorus. I thought it was really, really cool. Distortion, make it cut through. A little bit of resonant cleanup right at 1K. It was getting really annoying. This is more harmonics than anything. Oh, I am compressing. Something's got a little bit pokey. Oh, this is cool. This is a cool tool, and I think, again, I think this one's free too, from Brainworks Plugin Alliance. What is it called? Pan EQ. Taking certain frequencies and just pushing them to a certain side, boost, gain, reduction, whatever. But this is a really cool. That's a really, really cool plug. Oxford Inflator, again, just to kind of give it some beef so you can hear it in the mix. And this is, again, cleaning up some of those resonant things, because this is another thing that moves a lot. Love it. I love it. So I called it Sirens. I don't know. I was just moving quick. I don't care what things are called. So those work really well together with that minor sky. Again, that's probably like 2 notes. That might be like a B, G, maybe a D. I can't remember. But again, very, very simple. So that's kind of the foundation of the chorus as far as this instrumentation. Another really cool part that kind of worked in tandem for me were these synths and cellos. Cool. Yeah, there was like some early mixed versions where like this was just too powerful. I had these just kind of right up the middle, left, right, and it was just too overwhelming because I loved the sounds too much, and it was just overpowering and it was just getting in the way of the vocal. So I ended up panning them out hard left and right and using them as just kind of complementary balance points on the left that move with the chords, just to add a little bit of size. So synths, what are we doing? Didn't want any low end. Decapitator, all-time favorite. And so again, brightening it up. This, before I panned it hard left and right, this was a trick I did. I bet this one's the same, but opposite, yeah. This was a trick I did. Just instead of using the pan knobs, I've had good success with this in the past, but it just felt a little too weird, and I didn't need it to be psychoacoustic because there's so many other little things whirling around it happening. I needed it to just be in that speaker, and the cellos to just be in that speaker. So sometimes it just had to be a little more cut and dry in this time. Cellos. Similar concept as that synth counterpart. Saturation, harmonics, cleaning up the low end and letting it just kind of be thin and bright, and then just kind of balancing them together, which I think they sound really cool. Like when you get to the C, like things just kind of lift and fill out. That feels cool to me. I like that. And arrangement-wise, I carried the synths over into the second verse, keeping things very sparse in the intro. Okay, this organ here. This was the original organ that he gave me. For the longest time, it was muted. I didn't use it. I didn't have a need for it or a want. I don't know. I didn't like it, so I just muted it, kept it off to the side, and then I just needed something that added a different kind of movement, maybe like a different image. So, back to that car analogy. This to me feels like the tires rolling. Like we got the sound of the tires on the pavement with the sirens. This to me is the sound of like the wheels moving. Space modulator. Let's see what we're doing one by one. So let me go here. Bounce in place .cm. Okay, so I clearly put tremolator on this and committed it. It must have been bogging down my CPU when you have some things that are so active like that. So that's what's giving it that whoop, 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 whoop. That puts it in a weird space. This thing's cool. It's kind of like Inflator, where it just kind of inflates things. It just makes them a little bit beefier, a little more harmonically rich. So that's what that's doing. Right, this adds a little bit of bite in the mid-range. This is just a side chain from the lead vocal to kind of push it back when the lead is singing. And Pro Q4, just carving room like I've been doing with all these other layers. Just giving it a home to live in. But I thought that was a really cool use of that organ and just kind of making things move. And again, this is his original organ, which just sits on G that whole time. So even when the chord really is on a C, it's still on G, which is, I don't know, just that with the drums, it just helps things feel grounded. So that's it for my main layers being like pads, long sustaining things. I added a few fun guys up here, which again, this is going to my lead guitar song. This is just in my template. You know, obviously Siren is not a guitar. But this was just, my routing is already set up, so I just grouped things together. Sirens totally could have been down here, but I just didn't have it and I didn't feel like changing it. So harps, this was a fun thing. Just when we got to that C chord, we only do it 4 times in this whole song. Only 4 times in this whole song do we go to another chord. Every other time we're just sitting on G, which again, I'm kind of making it feel like E minor maybe, but mostly G major. When we go to that C, I just wanted it to be a moment because there's such beautiful tension and release with his vocals in that moment. He has such a good leading tone, so I'm just kind of leading into that. No pun intended. I'm just leaning into that. So I added these harps. It's just like a nice little resolution. Lo-fi, help it cut through the mix. These all got it. That first one, a little bit of spatial widening. This one, a lot of bit of spatial widening. And I needed it to kind of, this is that low end where it just lands. So check this out, with and without. This is just the harp low. So let me play you harp high. Right, very thin. It's in the upper octave. And then I made another performance of the harp where I landed on an octave lower. And that sample, that patch, whatever it was, I think it was in Labs, just took a longer flow to it. So it's like a really cascading kind of motion to these harps played together. Right, that's very low. Very low, very rich. Here's without that low end. Adding in that 100 hertz just helped it just bloom. Yeah, I thought that was cool. And it only happens on those C major landings, which you can see only happened 4 times throughout this whole song. So I needed to make that a moment and stand out, just to give our ears such a nice refresh, you know. What else is here? Keys. Okay. So these two, again, kind of work together. So thinking back to what I was saying earlier about his instruction, as we're driving down this LA coastline, it's dark, it's moody, we're still kind of floating because we're not in the chorus yet, so we're not like grounded in a rhythm. We're still just kind of floating in our, you know, we literally set coast on our car and we're just going. But what he mentioned was driving past old spots on the side of the road where memories happened. So that's what I was kind of going for here with these little piano parts and these little guitar harmonics. And that's why they're trailing. There's space to them. There's reverb. There's echo. Because it literally sounds like you see it coming in front of you, and then it's there, and then it's behind you again. So listen again to like what's kind of happening here. Like maybe you're turning the corner where you guys had your first kiss. It's that kind of thing. It's ear candy. It helps kind of define a moment. So this only happens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. 7 times. Can I count? 1, 2, 3. Yep, 7 times. Used very sparingly. It's just a couple of notes that I'm just kind of affecting weirdly. So for the keyboard, taking out all that upper mids, the 3/5, taking out the high end, so muffling it, distortion, lo-fi kind of thing. I don't want it to sound like a piano. More lo-fi stuff happening here. Pan Man giving it that weird spatial movement, and pulling the formant down. Okay, so let's listen to like what that was. Yeah, just got to make it a little more interesting. Just make it interesting. Let's listen to like this guitar part, and then we'll look at what we're doing. Torque. Whoa, what an appearance. I really don't use this a lot. Let's see what this is doing on its own. Okay, here's the original guitar. Okay, normal harmonics on an acoustic guitar. It's sampled. I did not play this. Let's see what Torque is doing. This is a cool thing that like puts it in space, gives it a unique characteristic. I just don't want it to be. I didn't want either of these sounds to be just normal as they were a proper guitar, a proper piano. So right off the bat, we're changing the sound and doing even more so with this guy. Yeah, really fills out now. Pulling out some of that mid-range to make room for all the vocals, pads, reverbs, all that stuff that's just floating right there. Got it on reverse. That's the best thing about this particular plugin. Love it. Pan Man here as well. These are different tempos, different types of panning. Just to have different kind of movement. That really brings it forward, comes out of the mix. Alright, so I got a faster 16th note, mix it about 50%, and then later in the signal chain, quarter note, half note, much longer. Just makes it fun, interesting, weird depth, movement, space, all that good stuff. That's it for the instrumentation. Oh no, sorry, we skipped over these guys. Minor Sky. I don't even remember what this is. Okay, yeah, I remember this. I played around with this a lot. This ended up in a lot of different interpretations of itself. Like you see, I was trying Pan Man, Alter Boys. There's gonna be like different pitches. It ended up, I believe they're pretty much the same sound. Although this one's an octave down. Okay. They both got Decapitator and they both got Tremolator, which is doing the same thing. Same thing. Okay, so let's hear with and without all these plugs. And they are panned almost fully hard left and right. But there's some width to each sound. So that's why they're not fully panned 100%. There's that 70-80, so it just kind of spread a little bit. Okay, so the magic here is Tremolator. Let's see, I bet these are slightly different. So left and right respectively. So you can see that these envelopes, they're custom made. They just have slightly different attack and releases and just kind of where they ended up here. So if you can hear that in headphones, you can tell that it's kind of shifting pretty quick from one side to the other. So again, back to the visual image that I was given of driving in a car. Picture at nighttime, you're in the car. It's the shadow and light of the street lights in the car, maybe on the person's face, the driver, as you're going through. So that's what this is. It just feels like, you know, I mean, when you're driving and you just got street lamps, you know, casting a shadow on the exterior of the car onto the person's face as they're moving along. So here's all of my fun little elements that I added in place of what I was given, which was just that organ. Everything aside from these middle guys here, which are, you know, my little ornamental pieces that just very occasional. Everything else is very sustained. It's just layered on top of each other. Everything has its own place to live in, but they all very much work together to give that image of what it's like driving in that car. You can hear the wheels turning. You can see the lights going by. You can see the moments of people, memories on the side of the road. And this to me was just way more interesting than just a sustaining G major chord. So I threw some stuff at the wall, see what stuck, and he liked it. Then it's just kind of playing around with the arrangement, like, you know, muting that organ in the beginning, bring it just the choruses, and seeing what, you know, what stays, what goes. You know, trying to keep each section pretty well defined and knowing what that's going to be, so it's not just the same thing, everything all at once. That's boring. There's no other crazy effects. These minor skies, which are like the lights moving thing, is going to Buenos, which I've talked about before. This is just a ripoff from Chad Blake. Flanger into Mondo mod, and then a little more spatial, push it outside even more. So this just adds a little bit of even more movement. Let's actually see what this does. I'll go to a chorus. Yeah, just kind of widens it, pushes it outside of the speaker. A lot of these elements have their home in the frequency range as well as in the stereo field, pretty left and right. And this was like one thing that I just kind of wanted to be spatial, psychoacoustic, push it out wide, which again I just think makes it a little bit more interesting. So that only leaves vocals. So let's talk about his lead vocal, which he sent me. They were magnificent. Very, very little tuning was needed. This is all one vocal take, but I did break it out. You can see here into his verses. He's softer, more intimate, but on the chorus he's belting, and even on this one part in the verse he belts quite loud. So that's where I moved it down into the belting track, right? So he's got a soft track and he's got a loud track. Let's look at the soft vocal. If I unmute the vocal bus.
Take a walk down the long road. Tell me where you wanna go. Take a sip and lean against me. It's alright.
So real quick, this waves tune happens at 3 points in the song, right? So there's just one sustained note you need a little help on, this one here and that one there. So that's a quick on and off. Like I said, he's an amazing singer. He did not need much help, very little. So that's just automating the bypass to keep him in place a little better. V-comp. This is a weird choice. I don't use this one a lot. I forgot I even used it in this place. I don't know. I don't even know why I reached for it. I think I just wanted something different. Yeah. And I could see CLA 3A on the louder vocal. So just different control. That's all these two plugins are doing, is controlling whatever that track is doing. So when he's singing down low like this, he needed a little more control in these low mids. So he's boomy there. Let me play it without.
Take a walk down the long road. Tell me where you wanna go.
Yeah, just a little too boomy present. Again, that like 250 range, that's really where my two main pads, what I call them, whirly, I think they were called, that G major and that E minor thing, that's really where they're living, is in the low mids. So I just don't need that much happening in his vocal. Oh, and the compression at most.
But I look back as I walk away. You know that I feel the same.
-6, and this is a low ratio, 2-to-1. I did not need to clamp down on this. Yeah, nothing else happening, nothing fancy, no limiter. And then let's see what the CLA3 is doing when he's belting in the choruses.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end. But holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, cool. Again, more control. When he goes up into that higher head voice, you could hear that range right there. It's just getting a little too aggressive. But unlike when he's down low, I didn't need to touch the low mids. I mean, I left that untouched. So knowing when to do something, when not to do something, that's the name of the game, being a mixer. I'm remembering now. This was a very unique vocal chain. I remember having all these plugins which live in my template on this lead vocal bus right here. This is his main lead vocal. I usually have like 6 plugs on here. I might use 4. I might add more. You know, who knows? What am I actually doing? A little bit of saturation, a little resonant filter at about 150, and barely taking out some 2.5 and 500 is some nasty, notorious EQs. Not using a compressor, no gate, nothing else. A little bit of saturation, touch of EQ. Lo-fi. Yeah, this was so weird. Like I said, I ended up taking all that crap off of my lead vocal bus, which is, it lives in my template because it almost always works. In this case, it just did not work, so I really had to scrap the rulebook, and none of those plugins were helping me, so I took them all off. I liked it better with minimal plugins. And then I think it just needed a little bit of boost at the end with this lo-fi. This is a weird move. I don't remember doing this before.
Alright, we were holding on until the end, holding on.
You gotta love lo-fi. Look at that 0.1 distortion, 0.1 saturation, and it does a lot. Sometimes if you need a little more, go to 0.2 and 0.2. And then you're done. I just thought that was so good. Here's some parallels that, again, it'll just live in my template. I remember this was giving me flack too. This is normally just an 1176 that I slam and, you know, just kind of bring it up in parallel, which you see I'm doing here. I'm at -2 on the main and -16 here. But it just didn't sound right for whatever reason. And I know he's not tracking with compression or anything else. It's just a very raw vocal. There's no EQ. There's nothing going in. But it just wasn't sitting right. So I had to go pretty hard to get it to pump a little bit weird on this 1176 and then smooth it out with the LA2A. So let's hear with and without this. And I'm going to mute these other leads so you're just hearing the parallel lead vocal.
Alright, holding on until the end, holding on until the end, but all out of time. Oh, I wish I had a way to say it. Wish I had a way.
So you can hear without that LA2A, it just pumps way too much and it's just a little too crazy as it's grabbing all those peaks. This smooths everything out, calms things down, and it just kind of holds it rock solid. And then again, you just blend it in with the lead. So here, I'm going to bring it in and out.
Holding on until the end, holding on until the end, but all out of time.
Keeps it right where it needs to be. I have 3 more parallels that I'm using to help with this vocal. So let me just do a quick with and without these last 3.
Holding on until the end, holding on until the end, but
So you hear it really fills out. Let's start spreader. It's just spread. These will tweak a little bit every mix, but pretty much just stays there. Let's set it and forget it. Blend it up to taste. As soon as they get it to kind of wrap around a little bit, and so it's not just straight down the middle, then I'm happy. Air. This is a fun one. Sometimes I don't find that I often need this, but in this case, he just needed a little extra sparkle on the top end. So this is just a gate because I'm about to really pummel it with distortion, punish all the way up, mix heavy, drive at 10. But I'm only 16K and above. Listen to the top end of the vocal. It's just going to add a little bit of shine, a little bit of expensiveness, that polish that it needs.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end. But
Just a little bit of sizzle on top. That's enough for me. I like doing that better than adding a bunch of top end. I find that, I don't know, I just don't have good luck adding in, just boosting an EQ on a vocal, because all these words are hitting a little bit differently, and I just wanted this to be consistent, which distortion is just extreme compression. So that's all I'm doing here, is just basically isolating the frequency that I want, squashing the hell out of it, and then blending it into taste. And ISO here, this is another thing that lives in my template, and it's the same exact concept as the air. It's just executed differently. So here I'm isolating the frequency that was sort of lacking or just needed more control, or whatever the case. And then MV2 to squash.
holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
So essentially, ISO, which is just short for isolate, I'm just isolating a frequency. And this will change every song. Again, sometimes I don't need it, sometimes I do need it. He just needed more control in this low mid area. So here's with and without these two things here. And then notice how the vocals open up when these come in.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
That to me makes a big difference. Lead vocal sum, all of these lead vocal buses, parallels, whatever, end up at the lead vocal sum. First thing, just a little light de-essing.
Holding on until the
Didn't need much. He's not overly sizzly, so he really didn't need much. A little bit more control, 79. I usually don't like this thing at 100, so 79% will be fine.
holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, this one mostly he just gets a little pokey in that mid-range. This at the end, not doing really anything, just a little filter. So let's talk about the vocal effects, because this is everything with this song, is the vocal effects, as you can all hear. This is where this was a great lesson that I get reminded of sometimes as a mixer, because this is not my song. I was able to do a little bit of production on it for him, but I'm not producing it. I'm not a writer. I'm not the artist. I did a little bit of production, and now I'm doing some mixing. So in this instance, I'm not making my song. I'm making his song. I am here to serve the client. What he likes is different than what I like. My preference. I would stick on the drier side, still with reverb, still with delays and all those nice things. But this particular artist, Elden, lives in reverb. So this is where the first mix was a little more to my taste, where there's still, I thought, lush and very spacious. But he's like, no, push it, push it, push it. After like another round or two of back and forth, I was like, okay, let me bring all the faders down and rework this, because the priority is the vocals and the time-based effects. This is less about the instrumentation, which is okay, because in this case it just kind of sustains. And I had to pick a winner, because vocals are just long, sustaining, essentially pads, layers, textures, which the foundation of this song is pads, layers, and textures. So I really had to pick one or the other. So I lowered the volume, kind of put things in their own space as far as the instrumentation, so that the vocals can be as big and lush as he wanted them to be. I feel like I gotta mix this fucking record in goggles because there's so much reverb. But he's happy, and that's all that matters. This is not my song. This is his song. So let's look at some of these effects that we're doing. So V, EQD, vocal, earthquaker devices, afterneath. Who says guitar pedals are just for guitars? That's exactly what I did. So we can solo that up on its own. That sounds pretty wild. I'll go to a chorus. It's more than just a reverb. There's a lot of reflections. So it's really a mixture of delay and echo without being able to like control each of them individually. It's weird. It's wild stuff. So it's mono. So I printed a pass twice and I slightly tweaked the settings so that they would be just slightly different on both sides. Pretty cool. When he's singing really loud, you can really definitely hear the delays. Like, you know, you can hear words in it. It's not just a smear of reverb. So what are we doing? Sheps, crush. Okay, so it's like a clipper. We're really putting a lot of harmonics into this. Filter at 200 and 5K. Taking out some honk at 1.5 because that's the intelligibility of his dry vocals. So I don't want to clog that up. Compressor, VCA style. How much are we doing? Nothing? Alright, not even hitting it. Okay. Soothe. Again, this is the intelligibility of the vocal right around 1K. So this was getting a little too pokey. So just kind of taking that out once more. This time I can leave it up at 100. That's fine. Sheps again. So this is slightly different. So again, taking out more 1K because I was just finding it to be a little too harsh. And then here, I remember doing this. So I put this compressor in mid-side because I got two printed channels of this reverb, right, left and right, and they're slightly different. But up the middle, I'm pulling out 4.5 and leaving the sides alone. So this is just faders for getting this to sit more around the vocal as opposed to like right up front with the lead vocal. So let me play this.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Right, that to me just kind of puts it just out of the way of the lead vocal. So it's still cool, it's still big, it's very lush, but it's not conflicting or fighting with the lead vocal for your attention. If it was up to me, this would say minus 15, but what are you gonna do? Radiator, harmonics, beef it up, just make it warmer, thicker, and a little less harsh on the top end. Just kind of pulling it down a little bit. And then
holding on until
just a little side chain for like when he really belts. Just pulling it down 3 dB just to help, again, make room for that lead vocal so it's not conflicting. This is, you can see all of these 7s right here are 1176s that are side chain to lead vocal. These are all my time-based stuff. So that was how I was able to get away with using this much reverb and effects. It's really the only way you can get away with it. So what else are we doing? I'm sure there's a lot of automation. So here's my main chorus verb. First thing is just a little filter EQ. And then again, there's a little filter here, but 8-second plate with 118 millisecond pre-delay. again, pre-delay works. It's the same concept as having this sidechain compressor at the end. The pre-delay gives me separation between the lead vocal and all of these effects. If I didn't have any pre-delay or sidechain compression, it would be a mess, and this record would not be doable. So I got an 8-second plate. That's pretty big. Into more distortion, just to kind of help make it bigger, more aggressive, more noticeable. Some songs I don't want to hear the reverbs. I know that they're in there and they're adding space and dimension and all that, but you don't hear them. In this case, it needed to be heard. I mean, the vocal and these effects, this is the whole song. And then again, last thing. That's going to be the same throughout. So additionally going on, we have a slap. Again, a little bit of filter, top and bottom. About 125. Oh, this looks like just that preset on Echo Boy. I don't think I changed anything. Yeah, no, I didn't. There you go. Pretty subtle. What else is big happening here? So this 8th note delay, huh? Again, similar thing. 8th note and 250. Okay, so this is one I love. 250 is a magic number for delays. It almost always sounds good. 250 sounds great. A little bit of filter, and then again a side chain. So I have an 8th note, and then I'm also sending to a quarter note. Slightly different filtering, but same concept. Okay, so I'm only using the phase button here. So I'm flipping one side out of phase. So that's outside of the speaker. That's all this is doing. No EQ, no nothing else. And then I'll find a part of the song where it's actually playing. There's my chord note. You know, good amount of feedback. Again, a little bit of filtering just to make sure it stays in place. Built-in sidechain on this unit, which I love. I use it all the time. Not modulating or doing anything else fun there because I'm doing it here. Okay, 62%. Flanger, again, a little bit of movement, and then Old Faithful. So let me find a spot where that's actually happening, which appears to be, oh, just a couple of specific words. Yeah. Again, making moments. I think this is happening on every time we land on C, because there's that tension and then there's that release. So like the harps, I wanted something with the vocal to kind of just bloom out that would add that space and dimension when we land on that C chord. That's a big moment. That's such a relief moment. So I that's why it's outside of the speakers. It's huge. Very big. I love that a lot. So I just automate just those big words when he's landing on C. That's all you need. Let's see what this 8th note is doing. Okay, I just took it out for that little bit in the verse because he belts a little bit. Otherwise, it's going all throughout this chorus, his big belting vocal. Echo. Where is echo? That's on the lead here. Is that just same thing all the way throughout? It is. Filter. Galaxy.
Last like an old song.
Yeah, okay, so I got verbs on the outside. All of my other delays are all on the outside, especially that chord note, way extra outside. This is one right up the middle. Right up the middle. So that's nice. Chord note, half note, triplet. Tuck it in, done. Let's see. Vox pad. Am I using that actually? Where's Vox pad? Oh, I'd switch it to verse verb. Okay, so we have our chorus verb, and then again, just to make sections a little more interesting as we move along, the verse gets its own reverb. So we have that big 8-second plate in the chorus, and here is
last like an old song.
A little smaller, a little more intimate. A little more intimate. It's 5-second reverb, really. But it's a different sound. So like, check this out as we go from one to the other. As we go from the verse to the chorus, just the difference in space.
It's alright. We were holding on until the end.
Yeah, you just got to make it different. Keep things interesting. The arrangement changes. The vocal effects are changing. Because again, when he sent it to me, nothing changed throughout that whole thing. So just finding ways to keep things interesting. I've talked about this before, this Aphex little send back here. It's just a little parallel distortion. Helps things cut through.
Last like an old,
especially if I play it in the mix.
holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, that's some good mid-range presence, a little top end. Just brings it forward. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. There's a slap that happens consistently throughout. Just 125. Done. Sounded good. Tweak it different for every song, but sounded good there. So let's look at this. This is an important thing here. I'm going to turn off all these effects. I'm going to mute all this time-based stuff, except for a couple things. So I'm going to do Woolly, Side Shaker, and Spreader. And that'll do. So these three things right here are not heard, but they are felt. They are noticed. So we're going to listen to the lead vocal. These are what give me size to the vocal, dimension. It puts it in a space. It puts it into the mix. Makes it less sterile. So check this out. With and without. It's just going to really flatten out when I take these out. Headphones.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end. But we're all out of time.
That's the magic. This is some of those like little 10% moves that are gonna make the difference. This is why you get a pro mixer, is stuff like that. Making things fit into a space. These effects are not heard in the mix, but they're felt. This is one of those, like if I were to make two mixes with and without these three things, you would wonder why the one felt so boring and the other felt so good. It's those tiny little moves, those little 10% that take it across the finish line. So we looked at Spreader. It's just micro shift. It's great. It's Eventide H3000 basically. Woolly. This is really cool.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
That's it. It's just a chorus focused in on that low end, the low mids, and I call it woolly because it gives it that woolly sound. It's just it's tucked in. It just kind of, I don't know. It just makes things fit a little bit better. So I just pepper this in. This is pretty low, like 20, and actually that's higher than I normally am. I'm usually at like 30, but this was a very vocal centric song, and it just felt better. And then we have Side Shaker, and this is exactly what it sounds like. Again, normal filtering, taken off the very top, very bottom. 64th dot, 30-second triplet. This is a very subtle way to add excitement to a vocal without noticing it. This is a great trick. I forget who I got this from. I think Tony Maserati. I heard him talking about the Robin Thicke vocal or something like that. But yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
I'm only using this on his belting vocal, so it's really just the choruses. Again, pretty low, -22. It just shakes the sides a little bit, so it's a little bit of excitement. The sides are doing this around his vocal that's steady. So it just, again, you got Wooly on the bottom, side shaker on the top, spreader doing the whole thing, and it just, that's what makes it feel like a record for me. Moving on to backgrounds. They're pretty straightforward, nothing too special happening here. So these, I am setting to that same 8-second chorus verb, that big plate. In the chorus, I'm setting to another verb, which I have labeled bridge. And that is distortion. And I'm sure this is the same filter. Yep. Filter, distortion. Okay. Shorter, much shorter reverb. 1 second. It's a hall, just for a different sound. I got 2 other plates happening. And then I'm compressing it. How much am I actually compressing it? Alright, pretty big. So that's a big part of the sound, is compressing it instead of distorting it again. Right? And then same thing, dipping it so it's out of the way. So this is just a fun, different space to put the backgrounds in, just to be something different than the lead vocal, so they're not conflicting. Again, these were just I just kind of let them be too mid-rangey. I didn't do much. I just kind of treated a whole background vocal bus. There's only a couple things where I actually needed to do something specific, but let's just go down the line. So we have these intro, Oz, and I love my color coding. Right, just basically a fade in. Here's what's happening in the verse.
Take a sip and lean against me. It's alright.
Easy, love it. Didn't need to do anything to these two down here. Take a sip and lean against me. Perfect, great, love it. Just, yeah, they're not even paying, just bounce them in. However, these guys, these little mms, this was a very specific thing that I wanted to do, because this is a main part of the song, and it was a big factor in his original arrangement, that these are happening throughout the verses. So I'm spreading them out wide because it's just 3 vocals and it just sounded too naked on their own, so I just put them all out wide. These are all exactly the same. Distortion, distortion, distortion. Again, all the same. And then I have a verse verb that it's going to, as well as lead vocal monoverb. Okay, so here's where these two are coming into play. These two. I switched the names of these, but you see verse, verb, monoverb. Verse, verb. Let's look at it. Distortion. Plate, almost 2 seconds. No pre-delay. And this is panned at 19. So my monoverb, not truly mono, but up the middle. Wide verb. Echo boy to start. Okay, so I'm sending echoes into a reverb then. Yeah, 2.5 seconds. It's longer, and you can see a pretty extreme pre-delay here. Distortion, and then soothe. So this is out wide. This is, yes, delays going into reverbs, and it's distorted, so it's big and wide. I have a mono verb and a wide verb. Let's look at like how these are reacting. So you can tell on the meters here what I was going for. There's a shorter mono verb, and then it goes to a longer wide verb. That's pre-delayed pretty significantly. What that means is that this reverb is initially going like this. It's in the middle, and then it blooms out, which to me matches the shape of that vocal. That's how it's going. So it's going, and then it cascades out.
Take a sip.
That is, I'm not sure what led me to that decision. I just knew I wanted it to be interesting. I just want to, because this happens throughout all these verses. It just kind of repeats. So I thought it'd be cool just to give it the reverbs a little bit of movement like that. Just it's one space and it's another, and it just kind of flows. So I thought that was interesting, just to, right up the middle and then explodes out. I don't know why I did that, but I like it. So these ones right here, I remember when I got the original session and I was looking at pitch correction and timing. These just kind of move and swell, and I liked it better untouched versus these ones here that I did go in and time align and just kind of fine tune some pitches. This is a moving. Let it be raw. Let it be raw. Again, knowing when to and not to do something. But this needed a little bit of help because there's consonants. So when we sing out of time, I just want those T's to all lined up so it's not just so splattered. Out of time, out of time. Yeah. All these background vocals go to this background vocal bus. Similar situation to my lead vocals. A little bit of saturation. Barely any filtering at 120. A little off the top at 12K. EQ pulling out at 4.7. A little harsh. The lead vocals up there. I just let these be a little too. Let it be too mid-rangey. There's nothing wrong with that for this song. A little bit of treble at 500 and a little bit of low end. A little bit on top. Control. Again, mostly focused in that 1K because that's where his voice is living. Just trying to get out of the way of the lead vocal a little bit. Again, more harmonics. And then it ends up here, same as before with the lead vocal. So I got my little de-esser, a little more extreme than the lead vocal because you don't need 50 S's all going off at once. A little bit more control. Easy. And then again, more control at 1K. Couple resonant frequencies there, and all these vocals go to my B bus, which we've talked about. I do remember talking about this in a past episode. 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 150. I liked this one at 100. It just made his vocal a little warmer. It just kind of put it right into place. Don't overthink it. I don't even think I'm compressing much. Half a dB. That's it for vocals. Now the C bus, this gets all the instrumentation. other than drums and bass. So this is all my pads, all my long sustaining things. Let's see with and without this guy. So it looks like I'm doing a little bit of EQ. Why don't I toggle these on and off one by one? Mid-side mode. I love this thing on mid-side mode, especially at this stage. It's just a way to kind of control things and get it out of the way of the lead vocal, just set them in their place. So check out this little tone modifier here, this tape emulator. It's a good little like pre-EQ EQ. And this EQ here, I'm sure I'm doing quite a bit. So 300, it's getting a little honky. Taking it out of just the sides, making room for those pads, all that instrumentation that's living in there, those low mids. Then up the middle, I'm pulling out 1K out of those instrumentation, again, to make room for the lead vocal. And then I'm boosting a little bit at 4K just on the sides, just to kind of wrap it around the lead vocal. So this is all for the lead vocal, as well as taking a little bit off the bottom. So let's see with and without this here, and see if we can notice a difference.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, just kind of puts it in its place. Mid-side limiter.
Holding on until the end.
Barely moving, not really doing anything. A little bit of filtering, adding a little bit of boost, adding some mids back in, roll it off at 20, roll off at 40. Here's this whole thing all together.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, and that's on from the start, except for the EQ. And I usually play around with this. I'm usually at 15 here or 7.5 on the right, but that's usually a good place for it. Last little bit of excitement, IDX.
Holding on until.
Again, barely do anything. I'm at 77 on the mix, so it's just a little extra touch. And then this.
Holding on until the end.
Mix is at 43%. I don't want this at 100. This is dipping out frequencies that are in the lead vocals. So you can see this is sidechained from the lead vocal. And it's only pulling out, just making a little bit of extra room for that lead vocal. Because all of these things in this C-bus, all this instrumentation is sustaining. And then you have all those vocals that are also sustaining, all those reverbs and delays. So this is a way to kind of help get just a last little bit of more room and clarity. And then we have our A-bus, which is drums and bass.
Holding on until.
Yeah, pretty subtle. Barely doing anything, just a little bit of control. Stereo bus. Let's talk about it. Let me come back to this one. This one's a little unique. So this, when I started building this mix, this is a new one from Waves. This was off. Okay. We're going to come back to it. So that comes on at the very, very end. Inflator.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Love it.
Holding on until.
Here's a little preset I came up with. Settings usually don't change. Now that I've got this little preset made for myself. Mixes at about 70. That's usually a sweet spot for a lot of these plugins. If they're doing a little bit too much, if I dial it back to 70, then I can get best of both worlds. But this one's hit or miss. It's either on or it's off. In this case, I liked it on. Let's see why.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until.
Yeah, this is glue. I know it's cliche for a mix bus compressor, but I just need a little extra glue on it. This thing I love. This is always on my mix bus. Mono maker at 82. Keeps things nice and tidy. Again with this resonant filter at 315. This is huge. Check this out.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
That's such a good little cleanup tool. This is almost always at 315. I rarely ever have this off. I will start working with this on. If I need to adjust, I will. But yeah, mid band is really cool on this, but I didn't need it. A little bit of boosted presence, a little bit of stereo enhance, and some harmonics. From there, going to a cool mid-side EQ.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Yeah, this just opens it up. So on the middle, I just got a slight boost, and we're talking half a dB at 74. Then I'm boosting a dB on the sides only at 2.5. So this just opens it up, puts it right in place. Then these last three are just my mastering chain.
Holding on until the end.
That first limiter, barely touching it. I want to do more than -3. -2 is ideal. Soft clipper.
Holding on until the end.
Not doing much. The whole point of that is to make this last limiter do even less.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
Again, I don't want any limiter to be doing more than -2 or 3. So these three working in tandem is how I can get my master up to.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the.
It's nice and loud. I'm hitting -6 in the loudest parts. But that's where I like to live it. One last thing, I almost forgot about this. This is a weird plugin. I'm still unsure about what to do with it, but what worked for me in this mix, in this exact moment in time, I got things dialed in the way that felt good to me. I did my EQ on the channels. I took care of everything. I'm not relying on curves for my sound. The only way I could get this thing to work was to throw it on at the end and just have it do the last 10% of EQing before it goes through the rest of my mastering chain. So let me show you with and without this right here.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end. We're all out of time.
I want it to do light work. This thing defaults to like doing a lot, and I do not want this to do a lot. So I'm this thing. Let me do this. I'm gonna turn the original off, and I'll show you like where this was for like what it was suggesting I do.
Holding on until the end. Holding on until the end.
That to me is just too much EQ certainly at this stage to be doing on the mix bus. But I found a sweet spot where I'm like, let me get it so I can just make it 5% better.
Holding on until the end.
That's it. So you can see how much less all the reduction, the addition that it's doing. I just wanted to just touch it, just do a little bit of it, just a little extra shaping. I don't want this thing to carve and really change my sounds. So it's a new one from Waves. It's cool. It'll have its uses. I wouldn't rely on this for everything, but for that last little 5%, like, yeah, it's cool. So let's take one last look at the progression of things here. So here's where it was, how I got it, what I did to it in terms of production, and then where the final mix ended up. You'll watch me cycle through these here.
Holding on until the end, to the end. Holding on until the end. We're all out of time. Oh, I wish I had a way to say it. Wish I had a way.
Check out the song. It's out now. This, like I said, this was a great reminder for myself to always be serving the client, serving the song. If this was my song, I would have done it different, but that doesn't matter because this isn't my song. So the artist wants this to be drowned in reverb and effects and have this big lush stuff. I have to find a way to make that work. For me, that was removing a lot of that instrumentation that I thought was cool, and I was up front for the first couple mixes. I just had to put all that back, make it support the lead vocal and all that reverb. I may disagree with it, but it doesn't matter. That was the job. If anybody has comments or questions about how I did something, you want me to elaborate on anything here, I know I ran through it kind of quick. If you need a little help getting your stuff sounding good, let me know. All right. See you next time. Maybe not. Whatever.